IFLA 2020 warmly welcomes Professor Kongjian to join us live from China. Hello, Prof. Kongjian.
Thank you. Wonderful introduction. So I will share my screen, right?
Yes, go ahead. Now let's together listen to the presentation by Professor Kongjian, and we love to see the beautiful background behind him too. Go ahead, Prof.
Yes, can you see it? Hello, it is my great honor to share with you my practice and my thinking about how can we heal the community by healing the planet through the nature-based solutions. Today we are facing so many challenges: flood, drought, pollution, habitat loss.
And Professor Kongjian,
yes.
We're gonna just wait for a moment until you share your screen, but that's okay. We'll give you a bit of time to share your screen, and as everybody waits for your presentation. No worries.
Okay, I think I share my. Can you see it?
Okay, it's almost coming to the screen. Yes.
You see it? Can you see it?
Okay, yes. So now we have seen it. We're going to put you on stream, on the live streaming, and then hopefully you can just start again. Luckily, you just started a little bit, so everybody didn't miss a lot just yet.
Okay?
All right, Professor, let's do this one more time.
Yeah, sorry for the technological problem here. So it is my great honor to share with you my 20 years experience on how can we heal the community by healing the planet through nature-based solutions. Our former speakers, including Jala and Steiners, all talk about ecosystem services and how can we solve the problem through landscape. Now, we are facing, as you know, so many challenges: flood, drought, pollution, habitat loss. That affect the well-being of humanity, security, poverty, health, social status, freedom. Now just look at just a couple of weeks ago, the German flood caused about 200 deaths. And the Chinese flood in Zhengzhou city, over 300 people got drowned in the city. Now more of these disasters will happen in the coming years. Conventionally, people are looking for stronger and increasingly more sophisticated damming, flood walls to fight against the war, channelizing the rivers, and more complicated sewage plants to treat water. Now, this kind of great infrastructure, just mentioned by Jala Makuzumi, in our former speaker, the Jeffrey Jellicoe Award winner, this year's winner. Now, such kind of dams, big reservoirs, long-distance aqueducts, and pipelines and flood walls can be necessary to solve urgent individual problems, but it consumes huge amount of concrete and energy, destroy nature and its resiliency, lacks resilience, and often raise the risk of catastrophe, and breaks the connection between man and nature, and in many cases erodes the welfare of humanity itself. For example, in my country, we have to relocate over 1.2 million people to clear the way for the 3 gorge dams. And we have to relocate about 400,000 people to clear the way for the southern North China aqueduct. Huge, great infrastructure. Now, the alternative is nature-based solutions. basically landscape architecture, to build or to design or to protect ecological infrastructure, or sponge cities and sponge planet when water is the main concern, which is critical for securing ecosystem services for people and community. Now here is a framework to build the bond between nature and the well-being of humanity. The nature-based solution, ecological infrastructure, and designed ecologies, which is basically landscape architecture, to secure and improve ecosystem services. As Fritz Steiner just mentioned, including supporting services, provisioning, regulating, and cultural services to serve and fulfill the well-being of humanity, security, basic needs, health, social status, and freedom. So for over 20 years, we have tested and built over 500 projects in more than 200 cities and developed several nature-based, widely replicable models for healing the land at a variety of scales. Here you can see from North to South China, from China and Russia, and also a couple projects in the States. While they are focused on primary targets, including flood adaptation, stormwater regulation, water purification, soil remediation, and so on. Now, these projects are holistically and systematically designed to provide an array of ecosystem services and cultural eco-services for native species of all kinds and people from all walks of lives. So we are healing the communities that are tied to the land and nature. In China, almost all urban rivers, have been dammed and channelized with concrete and flood walls. And this is a global phenomenon. More than 20 billion US dollars is invested to control flooding. But each year, more than 100 billion get lost. Why we have to build this kind of concrete dams, concrete shelves? We have to stop this never-ending war. But what is the alternative? The alternative is nature-based solution. Here is an example in my own hometown in China's Zhejiang province in Jinhua city. An ecologically designed river bank by removing some concrete and creating terraces that integrating vegetation and the soil, different kind of soil, to create a variety of habitat for biodiversity, for diversity. At the same time, create a resilient riverbank that can reduce the peak flow by more than half. Now, this is a 100-year flood. This is a 20-year flood. You can see how we can increase the resiliency of the river itself. But beyond that, by giving water more space and creating a more resilient riverfront, people are receiving better services, ecological services, inspirations from nature, beauty, identity, health, social equity, and the sense of freedom. Here you can see 40,000 people use this riverbank every day. And all kinds of people, male and female, equally use this shared space between nature and people, and of all kinds of people, different levels of education even. Imagine over 65% of Chinese cities or suffering urban inundation. Now, does that mean we have built thicker pipelines, stronger pumps to do that, to solve the problem? Like that, great infrastructure, that maybe solves the problem, immediate problem, but they are usually dangerous, and more importantly, they waste so much water. They drain away water. Now, the alternative is nature-based solution. We can create sponge, green sponge within the city. Here's an example in Sanya City, a tropical city in South China's Hainan Island. We're terracing the slope, pounding the ground, islanding the swamp, and eventually we create a water-resilient sponge in the middle of the city and create a habitat and public space altogether, a holistic solution. This is a rendering. This is an execution in just 1 year. A sponge was built right in the middle of the city. This is dry season and monsoon season. Dry season and monsoon season. So the city become resilient. Since 2016, before the project was done, you can see a severe urban inundation, urban flood. And this is just 4 years later, you can see we not only solve the problem of urban flood, but by solving the urban flood, we were able to increase the property value of the surrounding area by 400% and catalyze urban development. Look at how much development just happened surrounding this green sponge in just 4 years. And at the same time, we create a recreational space for the people. This is ground level. See, people use the space for exercising, for daily life, and on the skywalk above the canopy. The park provides recreational space, which has been particularly critical during the pandemic, connecting the communities. Imagine 75% of surface water in China is contaminated, and 85% of sewage globally goes to rivers and oceans untreated. So does that mean we have to build a more complicated and more expensive sewage treatment plant? Maybe not. We need alternative, affordable, and rapidly implementable solutions, particularly for the developing countries in the monsoon climate zones. So the nature-based concentrated wetland can remove the nutrient through the biological process to produce clean water. And the clean water, we are not talking about just a single piece of urban green space or an individual park. That we are talking about the wholesale transformation of urban infrastructure itself, from single-purpose gray infrastructure to green infrastructure that provides a spectrum of eco-services, including cultural, ecological services. This is before and after. The concrete riverbank, the channelized river now being transformed a whole mangrove corridor. This was before and after. See how people use the corridor for daily recreational activities. And this green infrastructure can remove the water nutrient in the water by 80%. And the crucial wildlife habitat get recovered in the heart of the city. The water purification process has been transformed into a process of harvesting and celebration, not just for biomass and clean water, but also one that affords visitors a more intimate understanding of the local environment, a sense of beauty, happiness, and place, and a feeling of belonging and community. Similarly, in Russia, the polluted concrete jacket waterfront has been healed and revitalized through a series of nature-based interventions. The biological infiltration terraces are integrated with recreational and educational functions to become a 24-hour-a-day cultural attractions. The formerly deserted waterfront was successfully revitalized and has drawn as many as 50,000 visitors per day since it was opened to the public in the summer of 2018. After more than a century's alienation from the city and its people, Kazan's long neglected prime waterfront has been rejuvenated with ecological health, cultural vitality, and a new feeling of belonging, as well as national identity and dignity for residents. Now, this can be a solution for even larger scale water issues. The China Bohai Sea, over 700,000 kilometers in size, is seriously contaminated and is becoming a dead sea. Now, we tested a green sponge along the coastal shoreline to intercept nutrient-laden runoff flowing towards the sea. Here is a result. You can see we not only create a green buffer around the coastal shoreline, but also create a community band that unites the community together, become a beautiful, welcome community activity space. Imagine 60% of urban soil in China is contaminated. Conventional remediation techniques are very expensive. How nature-based solution can do that? We collect stormwater and use the stormwater to remediate the alkaline soil and transform the brownfield into a green native habitat. Now, this messy native habitat are so beautiful to the local people as they have never seen the native nature in the middle of the city. So through the process of healing the brownfield, the surrounding working class community got access to a healthier environment, and the sense of belonging and the community become stronger. Now, this is an example. When the local authorities attempt to gentrify this park called the Chaoyuan Park in Tianjin City and try to use the space for commercial development, the local residents united together to defend the recovered messiness of the park, which they grown to love. We are talking not just about the cities, but also about the innumerable rural communities and indeed the entire global village. How can we use nature-based solution for rural revitalization and achieve a sustainable world through the healing of the planet? So I'm going to share with you a nature-based solution for rural revitalization. In rural areas, besides the destructive gray infrastructure of concrete and non-native ornamental landscaping, you can see here the planet and its life supporting system is experiencing one of its biggest challenges ever: artificial chemicals. Globally, over 4 million tons of pesticide is used, together with 200 million tons of chemical fertilizers. China accounts for 1/3 of that, and 60% is simply wasted, flowing into rivers and lakes and killing all kinds of species, causing food security issues and threatening public health. Like that. Yet, all these chemicals and concrete have not made rural communities prosperous and better off, but have instead had the opposite effect. Incomes have gone down, young people have gone to the cities to earn money, leaving their children behind. The elderly and the sick are left in collapsing houses, and as communities that have existed for hundreds of years have fallen apart, so has their cultural heritage. Now, this is a nature-based rural revitalization experiment. It's a one-son life experiment in the village, in a remote village with 1,700 years of history, a real capsule of time. So use nature-based solution. We will able to redistribute wealth and improve social equity. Capitalize on the eco services of these remote villages, this kind of remote villages. So step one is to discover the cultural ecosystem services, the beauty, the meaning of the landscape, the stories, the history of the landscape. And we create we create a heritage corridor, a network that allow people to experience. The second step is to discover the provision services, the high quality provision services, safe, green, sustainable products, including organic green tea, green rice, and corona oil. And we discover the local cultural heritage, the intangible, invisible cultural heritage, like tea processing. We create a green teas, a real organic green tea, which now become nationally announced. So the step three is to create an idyllic retreat with the power to attract visitors who can pay for the local cultural ecological services. This we did. By design, now here we can see the power of design. Designing this kind of idyllic dwelling, we create a special hotel under the tree canopy, put under the tree canopy and above the field. So we didn't take any piece of the cultivable, any piece of the land for cultivation, but create a new opportunity for people for improvement. And recover. This was today. This was existing situation of the collapsing houses in the village, and we rebuild it and create an attractive, idyllic settlement for dwellings, and integrated. Now, this hotel is not segregating the local people from the urban wealthy, but integrated, put right in the middle of the village. The step 4 is to catalyze tourism through education and arts. We call it deep tourism, learning by doing, and local crafts. We put an academy, a Twin Academy, in the middle of the village, and we also attract the National Mayor's Research and Training College in the village. This is how people being attracted to the village to learn, to experience local crafts, local culture, Even Harvard graduate students, even AA students now come to village to get inspired and do studios and mingling with local kids. Russian artists coming into the village. We have a village live museum and art school now. And also we develop this nature-based art, like this light here, and pottery also, and art field, music festivals, performances, and live stream event. 50 million hits get this summer, this spring. We get 50 million hits during the pandemic, attracting local people and offline also. Art have stimulated the village, attracts the community, let them join together, family come together. Step 5 is to improve the living environment and encourage community involvement. Now this just before and after transformation of the village, transform the floodable street into a really fairly safe street, and get villagers jointly build and share the public space. That is a bridgehead. By the way, the bridge also get repaired. This was before and this is after. In 3 years, transformed greatly. So the result is really amazing. Clear water and green mountains are just as good as mountains of gold and silver. Not just our president's 金山银山绿水青山 And by doing that, the ecosystem services have been greatly improved, inspired by the ancient vernacular water management landscape. A water resilient sponge system has been created in the village to solve the flood problem. Now this is before, and this process of creating pond, and this is after. The flood problem gets solved. And cultural heritage is protected. At the same time, of course, economies and the community get rebuilt. Compared to 5 years ago, the permanent resident population of the village get a 54% increase, and the annual income increased by 80% for average family. Now all these people, look at all these people, these are service people, all from this local village, and they share with the local. I mean, they are really mingling with guests from the cities, from Shanghai, from Beijing, from Guangzhou. So this gives the rural community a new hope, a hope for the future. So rural development based on nature not only allow urban residents to benefit from high quality ecosystem services, but also promotes rural revitalization. Here is today's village looks like. So just to conclude, more than ever, it is clear that no problem could be more critical than that of a decent survival of our humanity that is threatened to destroy itself by exhausting and polluting its natural context. We have to evaluate everything that has been achieved under the label of industrial civilization. Be skeptical of our current path and explore a new way, the nature-based way. In doing so, I believe that we can finally heal the planet in ways that stand the test of time and give a new kind of hope to all people everywhere who are dependent on nature's services. This is the true art of survival, and I believe this spirit lies at the core of the future of landscape architecture. Now, thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Kongjian, for reminding us how when we heal the planet, we're also healing ourselves and the community. We hope, Prof, you will stay with us via the virtual Congress portal, where our delegates can take the opportunity to connect with you.
Thank you.
Thank you again from all of us in Penang.
Thank you.
Goodbye for now, Prof.